So before I jump into talking about meetings and teams, I think it's always really important to talk about the people. I always do this in whatever meeting I'm in, is who are we, what do we care about, where are we from? So my name's Tom Moore. I head up the business development at Acronyms, so everything with existing clients, new clients, and marketing. We are an IT company, and I'm from Cornwall originally. So I grew up in Cornwall. I went away and did a business management degree, and then I started working in tech at IBM. Some of you may have heard of. Since then, I've now worked at Acronyms for just over 5 years, and as Helen mentioned, recently became Microsoft certified, which you'll see why that's a little bit more relevant later on. And outside of work, I'm into sailing, scuba diving, and pretty much any live sport that I can go and watch. So in terms of Acronyms and who we are, and I guess why as a company we're qualified to talk today, we were started in 2003 by a chap called Dave Smith. Dave is still the MD of the company today, and over the last 20 years or so, we've learned what we're not good at, and we've also therefore learned what we are good at. Now, to keep it simple, we focus on what we're good at. So that includes things like IT support, IT infrastructure, and more often now, IT infrastructure in the cloud. So things like Microsoft Azure, email, cybersecurity, telephony, and connectivity, interconnectivity. So we've got 2 offices across the UK. We've got our main HQ in Plymouth, which is where we've always been based, and we've just opened a second office in Bristol. So we've got about 25% of our clients are national, so between kind of like London and all the way up to Scotland. 75% of our clients are in the Southwest. So I've seen the guest list, and there's a few companies on there that we work with, and a few locally. So people like the National Marine Aquarium, Stratton Creeper Commercial, Walcombe Young, Drake Circus, Paints and Zoo. So today, I'm going to jump into talking about the nature of meetings and how they've changed. I should say there is time for questions at the end, and I'm more than happy to have any other conversations around any of this with you guys. So I want to start by casting our minds back to before COVID was a thing. So the information on this slide is pre-COVID. This isn't because of COVID, we're now working remotely. Before COVID existed, the move to remote working was happening. So if you think about it from a meeting point of view, usually to have a meeting, traditionally, you would physically have to go to someone's office. That could be 20 minutes down the road. Equally, that could be 2 hours. I've traveled halfway across the country, if not further, to go to a meeting. Now, we're seeing that there's a shift in the way people are working, and that is towards more remote working and remote collaboration. So the new way of working is very much team-based and collaborative. So whereas people used to work individually, in the last 5 years, what we found is that people are now a part of twice as many teams as they were within their organization. So if someone was in 2 different teams previously 5 years ago, they're now probably in 4 different teams. What that means is that about 80% of someone's time is spent collaborating with other employees. So that could be in meetings, on calls, in person, but for people to do their jobs, they need to collaborate with one another. So whilst things are changing and the way in which we work is changing, meetings haven't gone away. We're not now not meeting. They're still very much required, and they're required to enable us to collaborate and connect. So on average, people have around 10 meetings per week. Some of you may have more, some of you may have less. And on average, people in larger organizations will have around 11 people on a call. So typically, around 50% of these meetings are what we call kind of collaboration or status meetings. And I'll come on to explain about those types in a little bit later in the presentation. But the need for us to connect and keep informed of what each other is doing is hugely important. Now, not only that, but the workspace that we're working in is changing. So if you look around the Zoom call today, we can see now that people are working from their front room, from their living room, conservatory, office space, whatever it may be. But whilst business has continued as much as it can during COVID, again, what we're starting to see is that people won't necessarily be going back to the traditional Monday to Friday 9 to 5 in office space. Now, while some people will go back, what we're seeing is that people might actually go, do you know what, let's do 2 days a week at home and let's get the benefits, because I think everyone's been forced into remote working to some degree. People have really seen the light and seen how it can be a positive thing. Now, COVID's just accelerated all this. So 1/3 of meetings were 100% virtual in nature since COVID. That's going to have increased massively, well over 2/3, if not more. So, as I mentioned on the previous slide, most people on average have around 10 meetings per week. So there's a bit of information to get through on this slide. So if you can bear with me, I just want to walk you through it. Now, in the center, we've got the different types of meetings. So some of this data has come from Microsoft, by the way. We work with them closely. So 5 different types of meetings: status, collaboration, sharing, customer, and formal. That's kind of what the meeting is about. Now, 50% of those are collaboration and status. If we look at the right-hand side, we've got 2 statistics here, that 60% of people are unsatisfied with meetings and 57% find meetings unproductive. So let's look at why meetings are unproductive, or why people are becoming stressed. So I always categorize it into 3 different sections in terms of the different stresses. So we've got pre-meeting, during a meeting, and then post-meeting. And again, this is the traditional sense of how meetings have been up to this point. So pre-meeting, what we find is that people can have a lack of awareness about others, and it can be difficult to see calendars and schedule time. Now, what that means in plain English is that you end up emailing someone asking what time works for them. They reply, that doesn't work for you, and you just end up flooding about 11 people's email boxes with different times. People can typically be disorganized and unstructured and unprepared, and people are often late to meetings. That is a fact. Now, during meetings, they tend not to start on time. So if you've got a meeting for 10 o'clock, it doesn't actually tend to start until 10 past 10. In terms of remote participants, historically, what we found is that they can feel quite isolated by not being able to connect, especially if they've got technical difficulties. And then during the meeting, we find that if other content is required, that people can struggle to be able to access that content. So they've got another document that they want to share, but they can't because it's saved somewhere else, etc. Then finally, post-meeting. So after the meeting's happened, we find that people are typically unable to access the content that was shared during the meeting and unable to action things like the action items. Now, people, because they can't access anything like action items, tend to forget what they've got to do, or what they've agreed to do. And the one that kind of makes me laugh is that if someone misses a meeting they were supposed to be on, what tends to happen is they don't get the information, and someone from the meeting will have a meeting with the person that missed the meeting to tell them what happened in the meeting. So at this stage, I could do a poll here, and I'm sure that absolutely everyone would agree that they've had first-hand experience of some of these stresses. I've walked out of a meeting, gone, that was a waste of my time. Why have we done that? So interestingly, Outlook, which is Microsoft's email program, remains the #1 tool to schedule meetings. Now, that's great, but it's quite clear from what we've just discussed here that additional tools are required to help facilitate meetings. So in order to share content, video, everything else, there's other things that are required. So I guess in summary, meetings have now more virtual, they have more remote attendees, and that's only going to continue and become norm. This slide shows us that if we're honest, meetings aren't really great. they're not always great, and in fact, sometimes they're worse than what they are better. Now, what we'd suggest, and me and Helen were just talking about this before we got started, is that this is the ideal time to review your organization, how you're having meetings, and how you can have better meetings. So if we look at how we do that, then one of the answers is Microsoft Teams. And that's what I'm going to focus on today. There are others, but that's the key one that I want to focus on. So Microsoft Teams is a hub for teamwork that enables you to be more productive. That's what it's there for. It does this by giving you a single and secure location to bring everything together into one place. So the aim is that you don't have many different things in many different places. You bring them all into one place. Now, I'm going to go through and show you some different screenshots of Teams now. I'm going to show you some of the ways in which it works. One thing that I want to make clear before I start on this, everything that I'm about to show you, you can access from your desktop computer, from your laptop, from your tablet, from your iPhone or whatever device you have. Whatever device you use, the experience will be the same. You never have any sync problems. To put this into context, if I was chatting with someone on Teams on my laptop, I walked out my house, my office with my iPhone, I could continue that chat exactly where I was on the app. And that's a really key point in terms of that remote working. So I'm going to look at 4 sections of Teams. The first, excuse me. So the first section that I want to look at is communication. So Teams solves completely your communication needs as a team. So on the screen, you can see a snapshot of Teams. Now, down the left-hand side, we've got initially chat, meetings, and calling. These are the 3 icons. So you can move into each of these sections and either chat with people, organize a meeting, or call them. Now here we've got a list of names. That is the different chats that this person has going on. So you can have one-on-one individual chats, or at the one that's highlighted here, you can have a group chat. So here you can see multiple different people are commenting on this and involved in this chat. So at this stage, that's very much like things like Skype or Zoom or WhatsApp. Now it's really easy to turn any of these either group chats or individual chats into a video call. There's literally a button that you click that's got a video icon, and that starts a video meeting with all those people, or you can schedule it for a set time. So this sorts everything when it comes to communication. Now, I want to try and make this as relatable as possible for everyone today. So as a small business, what we've found at Acronyms, we've used Teams in anger over the past 2 or 3 years, is that we were actually a bit guilty of having too many meetings. And since using Teams, it's allowed us to reduce the amount of meetings that we're having. And through that, it's made our decision-making process quicker. So we've been able to make quicker decisions and collaborate quicker, which has put us a step ahead in whatever we're working on, whether that be a project, whatever it may be. So the next stage that I want to talk about is collaborate. So up to this point, what I've shown you so far in Teams is similar to Zoom. So a lot of people ask me and ask us, what's the difference between Zoom and Teams? Now, what you've seen so far, there isn't a great difference. Both do video functionality. Now, from this point onwards, the things that I'm about to explain and talk through, these are the things that make Teams different to Zoom. And I'm hoping that by the end of the next kind of 5-10 minutes, you'll see and have a taster as to how Teams is actually, you can't compare it with Zoom. They are 2 different products. So if we look at the screen then, and actually before I jump into this, I want to take an example of how we previously collaborated. So what we typically do years ago is if I wanted feedback from my team on a file, I'd email them the file, they would save it locally, and then they would add their comments and send it back. If I had to do that with a couple of people, I'd have 3 or 4 different versions, version 2, 3, 4, all from different people. I would end up having to jump between Outlook and multiple documents, and it's just not that efficient at all. That was what we used to have to do, and what some people are still doing. Now, what you can do, so we've moved on from the chat functionality here on Teams. So here we've got what's Northwind Traders. This is obviously just a made up example. That is the team. So you can control all this for your organization. So you can have people that you could have access, they could have access to the team. And then under the team, you've got what's called channels. So you've got general, marketing, overview, performance, shiproom, telemetry. So people can again have permissions to only those teams and channels that they need to be in. So what we've done is this is a channel here, so it's showing the marketing channel. The big difference on Collaborate is you can have files. So here you can see that everyone has a group chat. This specific channel is chatting, but they can also share files. So here we've got an example of a Excel file. Now the difference is that you can open, if I'm in that Teams channel, I can open that document without leaving Teams. Now that's really important. I don't need to leave the Teams program at all. I open Excel literally by clicking where it's highlighted there. I can work on that Excel document. I can then close it. I don't have to worry about saving that document because it's saved in the channel. Also, multiple people can work on that document at the same time, even to the point where if there is two of you in the document, it will show you what each other's doing. It's got a little cursor and it would show your name. So in terms of that collaboration piece, what we found is that where we were having a meeting previously, and it was tended to be a bit difficult to get everyone together at the same time, what we've done now is we can drop a document into a specific channel and therefore a specific team, and say to the team, right, we need to collaborate on this document. I need your feedback. And everyone in their own time can add to that, and you can say by what time it needs to be done, obviously. But we found that by allowing people to do it in their own time, we didn't necessarily need a meeting. And again, it comes back to, for us, it's saved time and also allowed us to be more efficient and just accelerated what we've done. So the next stage is customize and extend. So what we've talked about there so far is things like Excel, Microsoft products within Teams. As you would expect, Teams is a Microsoft product, so it works with the Microsoft ecosystem. Now, many of you, if not everyone, will use other services outside of Microsoft. So typically what you'd see if I look at anyone's computer during the day, you'd end up seeing them have about 8 different emails open, 6 internet tabs, 4 Word documents, 2 Excel documents, and jumping between everything. So whilst Teams gives you the place to have all your Office 365 things together, so your Word and Excel, you can also extend that. So you can connect in a number of different other tools. So currently there's about 150 different integrations and partners, and that's just growing every day. So what you can do is, if I show you on the right hand side here, this is again a typical screenshot of Teams. So you can see the activity, chat, the different teams that you're in, meetings, callings. Now you could connect, so to take a few examples, LinkedIn, GitHub, Trello, whatever tool that there's a connection for. And then what you would see is that there is an icon here. So if you had Trello, for example, one of my projects use Trello. So what we found is that for us as a business, rather than having to say to someone, to complete your work, you need to go to this place for this thing. You then need to go to that place for that thing, that place for that thing, and bring them all together. We've been able to say to them, okay, you're now a part of this Teams group. We've included you in this channel, and the tools that you need to connect are also connected to Teams. So someone can work in their channel, update any documents there. Then if there is an external tool that we're using, they can access that external tool within Teams. So again, you would click on it on the left-hand side, and let's say LinkedIn, you would have your LinkedIn experience, and you would be able to use that within Teams. So again, all about that efficiency, having that one place to work. So finally, again, here's another example. Now, this is a bit of a taster session. You could go into endless amounts of depth with Teams, and you can do a lot with it. You can create dashboards and those kind of things. What you would need to do is there's some development work to be done there, but there is some really cool features. Now, looking at this slide, here's a further example of how Teams does this. Now, all of this is delivered by Microsoft. Microsoft are a trusted brand across the world. And as such, security is something that we're really conscious of, and everyone is in IT. Microsoft Teams comes with enterprise-grade security, compliance, and manageability. So you've got that confidence. So by leveraging Teams for communication and collaboration, basically Teams enables you to meet anywhere. Doesn't matter whether you're in an office, in a park, in the Bahamas, meet more efficiently and be confident that it works. For people to work well and use technology, they need to have the confidence that the thing that they're using will work. So most businesses that we work with have a Microsoft subscription for their office. So things like Word and Excel. Now that will typically be a Microsoft 365 subscription. And again, without getting into it too much, there's hundreds of different types of licenses. But what you'll tend to find is that Microsoft Teams is something that is included within most Microsoft packages. So you've probably got the license for Teams already. If you don't, it's done and it's included within all their packages on a per user, per month basis. It's not expensive, but again, more often than what we find is that when we've worked with people, we've not had to, there's not been an additional cost because they've got it as part of their Microsoft subscription. So what can Teams do for you and your business? It can allow you to schedule calls. So within with other employees and externally, you can have video calls, audio calls, or chat. It enables you to work without technology getting in the way, and it brings all those different things together. So not just Microsoft products, but other products as well. We found that it's made us run more productive meetings and be able to be more efficient. From a employee point of view, we found that our employees are more engaged. If we do now have meetings, it tends to be that we've kind of taken, there's no attitude of, oh, there's another meeting that I'm sat in that's pointless. It's gone because we've kind of got rid of those. So if we are having a physical meeting, they're still required, then people know that there's a good reason as to why. So we're in a position here whereby COVID has accelerated things. COVID's accelerated remote working. It's probably highlighted how bad meetings are, and things have changed drastically. Now, again, what we're seeing is that this is the perfect time where people are, I'm sure you've done this already, taking a step back and looking at how your team runs or how your business runs and saying, okay, well, we've got really challenging times in terms of the business community at the minute. We need to be more efficient or more productive. This is one way that you can do that. The data is out there saying that people are having bad meetings, and this is an answer to them.